Welcome to the Clock Tower. I'm Brandon here with Colton, and today we are playing Saekano versus Haruhi. This deck is the deck that I previewed earlier this week on the channel, looking at the new release of Saekano Flat. The main goal of this deck is to try to build up as much memory as possible, try to rely on that compression for the end game, and then close out with the on reverse burn 2 finisher. But Colton, do you want to talk about your deck for a second?
This is very similar to the deck that I did for the channel a while back. I have moved out of yellow and into a little bit of blue, so I have access to the Nagato and to the anti-climax event, just because. I'm also playing the early play healer, because I think the deck does generate enough stock to justify it, even though the card itself isn't very good. So that's what I'm on. Other than that, it's, the mid game is all reverses. One has a combo, one just sends itself to memory and comes back. And the level 3 is the one that can summon something to board and also has the other card that can burn one.
Fair enough. So I've been playing the Universe Drop Search and the, in this case, the Mill Runner. That's also a potential pay 1, send it to waiting room to look at top 4, choose 1. Both cards that go to memory. The runner, if it was going to try to survive this turn, it's a very small runner. So it was unlikely, especially if you hit 1, that it was going to actually survive. But
it does force me to triple my combo in order to actually get 2 lanes worth of combo.
Yes.
So at the very least, it does, it changes my play a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, I wanted to make sure I could get my reverses here as early as possible, because I know I'm not going to be able to get reverses with your Oboro combo. So most of my mid game is, get a reverse, get some kind of plus, whether it's the combo or it's the combo list time machine. So being able to build my hand as much as possible in the early going is my ideal for this scenario. Especially because I'm going to have to crutch on the double brainstormers that I have in the back row to get pluses in main phase the rest of the game.
Being able to deny reverses is a pretty big thing with this deck, and being able to kind of execute that throughout the game is kind of one of its big goals. So being able to do that with this is going to be ideal. I do draw into the bar, so I'm actually able to double Oboro combo here. I try to see if I could hit another climax to maybe get the 3rd copy, but that's unfortunately not the case. So because of that, I can at least win board with the level 2 killer here, or level 2 up killer. That's fun. I switch into the level 1 brainstorm just so I can kind of start that memory train going a little bit here. And then I have the memory JC in the back row, so that way I can deny a further reverse in that lane with the level 2 killer. So being able to kind of, especially pairing it with that memory JC, I can essentially loop that level 2 killer, which is going to be actually pretty nice into that Alice matchup.
Yeah, and the board that you're looking at right now, this is the only thing Saekano does. It tries to loop its Oboro, which can deny level 1 combo reverses, that sort of thing. And it also can kill things that come down early pretty consistently and also jump them back into hand with the JC, like you said. So this is a great board for Saekano. It's also the only thing Saekano does.
It compresses the memory. What do you mean?
Same difference. I'm super low on Saekano. I don't, like, we talked about this on 5 Cards 5 Minutes. I'm so low on Saekano. That's why I played Haruhi into this, is because I'm like, actually think these two decks are legitimately comparable in terms of their power level. I don't think Saekano's very good at all. There was a moment in time when Saekano was good in JP. That moment was literally years ago. But anyway, that being said, hey look, you're looping. It's almost like that's what you want to do.
Hey, look, I have 2 copies of my level 1 combo, once again. And they're going to win board. I even have the 3rd one this time. I do play the 2-1 just straight from hand. In parts, that way I can kind of just spawn out the level 3 from waiting room. I do change out the other one here, because I'm like, this game's going pretty quick. I'm probably not going to have another turn at 2. So if I can just try to spawn them out cheaper, that's going to be the ideal. By cheaper, I mean like just kind of investing the stock early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on my end, like, this is where, especially because you're on Stock Soul in Haruhi, this is where you do generate enough stock to justify playing things like the early play healer. So I get one of those in the hand. Here, I know I can just win board with my 1s, so I'm going to win as much board with those as I can. Haruhi also has some really nice power pump tools. The Ricky's one of them. I don't use the Ricky because I don't feel like going to 2-5, but just by swinging with the Ricky, I can pump power to another lane, make sure that I get over. So Haruhi is pretty small by and large, but it has just enough power pump to scale over a lot of level 1 boards. So as much as I'm not going to get my continual pluses, like technically this is a combo, and that's not going to happen because you can Obero out of the way, but I'm still able to win board, which I think is useful. Or I side into the other level 1 so that I at least have a blocker up to keep some of that damage away. I'm also well compressed here, so I don't anticipate taking any of this.
Yeah, I figure since I have the combo, I might as well just loop it and try to
Sure.
build up stock here.
It's what you do.
Right?
It's what the deck does. So you're basically playing with a full hand. The downside to this is you have like no fixing. Like your triggers are bars, so like unless you hit your level 3 salvage, you don't have any fixing tools on board right now.
Yeah, that is correct. I can technically spawn the cards from waiting room for the level 3 level 3 combo, so that's at least nice. I can't do that until level 3.
Mikuru comes down. I pay the extra 1.
Yep.
So you can't play a climax next turn. I brainstorm knowing that I'm going to hit. So, and I decide because I had the salvage in hand that I don't mind making a more aggressive push here. Because I know at best you're going to present, 2-2-1. And that's if you, have access to all of your 2 souls.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty decent about my chances here, so I decide to salvage another copy of the level 3 anniversary off of playing the original anniversary. I swing with my big things that are not my combo first. I know you're out a lot of damage, so seeing that there was 5 open, I took the big swing and I found my 2 soul trigger, which feels pretty nice. So you're at 3-0. I contemplated for a moment here whether or not I actually wanted to try to proc the combo, but there was technically a chance that I could win the game here if the top 5 cards of your deck were clean. Because I'm swinging for 3 with a refresh, and then I'm spawning something else to board that could potentially swing for 3. So I do hit the combo, so I spawn out that level 1. You cancel on 2, so now I can't swing for lethal, but I might as well at least swing for the damage. And now all I have to do is not die, which becomes a lot easier because you can't play a climax, and I've got a neg soul on board.
Yeah, having the neg soul plus the anticlimax is a bit rough because I don't really have any additional like soul pump here.
There's a reason they'll never make that card again. Like Mikuru's actually, I've said it so many times, Mikuru's actually insanely cracked. Like
Yeah.
the fact that profile exists at all and is like legal and unrestricted. Obviously, it's because the rest of the set isn't very impressive, but the fact that that card is like just allowed is insane.
One thing I could have done, I could have actually grabbed the 3-2 off of the pay one, send a memory. For look at 4, choose 1. I actually played it down, then played over it, and then spawned it out at the climax phase. So I could have healed twice during that same turn with the same card. Which, I mean, it's using a lot of resources, but still getting 2 heals at this point in the game might have been a little bit more worth it.
Sure.
But outside of that, like, realistically, I more or less have to kind of, like, I have to play the waiting in the game, right? I have to wait until after the Mikuru has done her effect, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then hope you can't respawn Mikuru again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a Mikuru in hand. I clock it because I'm at 3-6. Mikuru's not going to do you a whole lot of good when you only have to, do 1 damage. So I decided to clock it. I'm going all in. My waiting room does not have the Trouble Girls, which is what I really wanted because I had another copy of the salvage in hand. So I really wanted to just Trouble Girl and not necessarily try to spawn. But my Brainstormer and the salvage off of the 10th anniversary Haruhi, none of that mattered because I didn't have any in waiting room. So I just play another 2 soul beater. And again, I don't swing with the combo first because I just want to see what I'm going to get. Give myself the opportunity to side with the Mikuru as well into a level 1. But I reveal a swing for 3. You do play the backup to win the lane and also to refresh because you told me you had 3 climaxes in deck, which I didn't realize that was your state. But you're still not in an amazing situation here.
I had triggered the salvage. I have the bar in hand and I have 1 bar in clock. And so it was like, with the other 2 climaxes in waiting room, that was just 3 out of 14 did not feel like good odds to survive. Making it more like 6 out of, or like down to 5 out of 22.
Yeah.
Felt a little bit better.
Honestly, I don't know if there's a huge difference between those two. It's still not great. But yeah, no, and we've talked about Saekano, 5 cards, 5 minutes. Like the memory package, you can see how the memory package works. You end up with 6 cards in memory, so you did what you wanted with the memory stuff. The thing that keeps Saekano from really being relevant, I think, is there are 2 things. One, the fixing is just terrible. Like, you just do not have, outside of salvage triggers, a lot of really good ways to find stuff in your deck. So you have to get your memory stuff together in order to, have the 2 1s on board that you can then turn into the 3 2s. If that goes off the rails at all, you're in trouble because it's very hard to find the pieces to bring it back together. And the second thing is the top end is just not very good. It just doesn't swing for enough damage. It has, what is it, I think anti-backup and hexproof or something. It's like, that's cool. But 3-2, 3-2, 3-2 is oftentimes not enough.
Yeah, and that's something that we were talking about before. That was something we were looking at with Maureen, that Maureen is almost not enough to actually close things out anymore. The only reason it's like as good and prevalent as it is because of how cheap it is.
You can run it with other stuff that, brings out 2 souls earlier in the game. Can buy you extra turns like Sora defensively, right? So like if you have Sora down, if you can loop Sora multiple turns, your opponent's just not doing much damage on you anyway. With Kanata, you're swinging for 3 over and over again. So like you're doing more damage push in the mid game with something like with something that plays into Maureen. But when you don't have that extra damage push in the mid game, just trying to close someone, especially when they're not into level 3, but even from 3-0, like 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, especially in a world where you have much better defensive tools than you did maybe a few years ago when Saekano was good in JP. I think that's its primary weakness. But yeah, that's it. We will be back on Tuesday. Clock Talk, talking about all the tournaments from the last couple of weekends. Thursday, 5 cards, 5 minutes for, I believe, Grisaya. Brandon will have a Grisaya deck the following week. We'll have gameplay for that in 2 weeks. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and have a good one.
We'll see you then.